Sarika, I'd like to introduce you to somebody very special. This is George Karunas. He is a storm chaser. He chases tornadoes, and he is a cloud aficionado.
Wow.
And he is here to tell us everything we didn't know we wanted to know about clouds.
About clouds, yeah. We kind of take them for granted. Like when you get up in the morning and you walk outside, what's the one biggest thing that you see every day?
It's gotta
Sky,
be, yeah, it's
right?
gotta be
The sky, right?
Yeah,
it takes
yeah.
up half of our field of vision. And of course, that sky is filled with clouds,
Yep.
right? Quick quiz.
Okay.
How heavy do you think an average cloud might weigh? Just a regular poofy cloud like
I mean, they're
like you might see.
floating.
Yeah, they're up there in the sky. They've got to be light.
Pillow light.
Like 1 million pounds heavy.
1 million pounds,
What do you
like
mean?
legitimately? Or is it
Legitimately.
you
A
just
cloud
being
is a
hyperbole?
million pounds.
A small one. You can get clouds that can be 100 times heavier than that. I like to classify clouds by their altitude. So think of the atmosphere as like a sandwich.
Okay.
And you've got like the bread, and you've got maybe a slice of cheese and a slice of tomato
Done.
on your sandwich. And so at the lower levels, we've got cumulus clouds, these puffy cotton candy, cotton ball type.
Classic
The ones
cloud.
that look like, you want to lie in them.
Exactly, right? The classic, beautiful clouds.
It's very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
But this cloud, this typical cloud that we're talking about, I mean, would you see that on a sunny day and then a stormy day? I mean, are these clouds always around?
So these poofy cumulus clouds, they form on these days where it can be quite nice out. But if you start to see more and more of them sort of coming together in these bunches, and especially if they're going more vertical, that's a really good indicator that things might get rough. Like for example,
Ooh.
here,
That's very
Wow,
cool. Looks
that
like an
almost
eruption.
looks like an
Yeah,
explosion.
Exactly.
it gives you a really good indication of how these clouds are behaving.
Yeah.
They want to billow up into something bigger. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. So pay attention to this if you see this out in the wild if you're
Okay.
having a picnic, for example, and see the clouds starting to do that, keep an eye on that.
Okay.
So let's move up into some of the higher layers of the atmosphere. Let's go to the mid layer. And here we've got these alto cumulus clouds. And this layer of clouds really gives us a good idea, not so much of how unstable the atmosphere is, but gives us a real good idea of the general direction that the weather's moving.
Okay.
So let's say they're coming from the north, for example.
Okay.
If our weather is coming from the north, here in North America, what does that usually mean?
Cold.
Cold. Yeah.
Cold.
Coming from the poles. yeah.
Exactly. So there might be a cold front coming. So that's a really good indicator that our temperatures are probably going to go down.
Okay.
If you see these alto cumulus clouds racing north,
That's warmer weather.
probably going to warm up.
Okay.
Because we're at the front edge of a warm front.
So, do we look to the alto layer of clouds to know what kind of weather we're getting? If it's going to be cold or stormy?
Well, the atmosphere is so incredibly complicated, but that one layer does give us a pretty good indicator of the direction of the overall weather systems that are happening.
Okay.
So nothing is ever 100% when it comes to the atmosphere because it is so very complicated.
Right.
But if we're boiling it down, yes,
Good
absolutely.
rules of thumb. Okay.
Going one layer up higher in the atmosphere, we've got the cirrus cloud layer, and that's basically the top of where all of the weather happens here on Earth. When you see these cirrus clouds, they're made of ice crystals, and they typically occur at really high altitudes above where a jetliner would fly. So very cold, and the winds are moving very quickly up there. Most of the time, they're not an indicator of any bad weather,
Okay.
but sometimes they are. There are
Okay.
certain circumstances where if you see these type of clouds, it can really let you know that the atmosphere is doing something that really means business. There could be a storm coming. Here's a really great example. Notice how we have all this high altitude cirrus clouds. Very
Okay.
dense. There's quite a bit of it. It's not quite as wispy. So this is a thunderstorm that's forming. And that thunderstorm is the king of the clouds, a cumulonimbus.
I've heard that one before.
That's the technical term for a thunderstorm. And these can be up to twice the height of Mount Everest.
Wow.
What?
That's
Absolutely
insane.
massive.
Oh my
You cannot fly a plane above these.
Wow.
Whoa.
You need a space shuttle to look down at these
Exactly.
guys.
But what we're seeing is this cloud has exploded up and gone up, like I said, twice the height of Mount Everest. And at some point, it can only go up so high. And when it does that, it starts to spread out.
Right.
And it forms an anvil, kind of like a blacksmith's anvil.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you look off to the west and you see some dark cloud on the horizon, and you've got
okay.
cirrus cloud approaching you overhead, that storm is headed
means-
your way.
Bad weather.
Wow, that's really cool.
Now that you know that, you can look at the sky, and after maybe 10 seconds of looking, you can have a pretty good idea of maybe
Yeah.
what the weather's going to be like later today or tomorrow.
Right.
And
okay.
yesterday you couldn't do that.
Which is pretty cool, yeah.
I might need a little longer than 10 seconds, but yes.
All right, let's get a little bit more back down to earth, down to pretty much ground level. Those thunderstorms that we talked about, of course, we've all been in thunderstorms.
But that doesn't look like a thunderstorm. That looks like a certain kind of cloud.
Yeah, and that looks like a scary cloud. I'm running in the opposite direction.
Not me. I'm going towards that. I
It's
wanna
funny
see
you
it.
mention that. As a storm chaser, we've got a slang term for this. We call it an SLC, a scary-looking cloud.
Oh, okay.
Serious?
I think I named that
Technical
cloud.
term?
In reality, what we're seeing here is the underside of that thunderstorm, those thunderstorms that are billowing up. And typically, the bottom of the storm will be very flat. But we're looking for any kind of irregularities in that flatness.
Right, like a little tail hanging down kind of
And as a matter of fact, this cloud off to the right, see it sort of stretching off?
thing. Yeah.
Here, that we call that a beaver tail.
You call
Because
it?
it looks like, it sometimes can look like the tail of a beaver.
So is this the precursor to a tornado?
It can
That's where we're
be,
going, yeah.
absolutely. And these little bits that seem to be forming out of thin air, we call that scud, scattered cloud under deck. So the flat part of the thunderstorm, we call that the deck.
The deck, okay.
And you get this scattered cloud underneath. And notice how it's sort of building up into the bottom of the storm.
Right.
That's the updraft. That's where that warm, moist air is going up
Right.
into the cloud.
Right.
The storm is acting like a giant vacuum cleaner. And it's pulling all this air in from around it.
Now, is it just me, or does it seem like the clouds are very low to the ground?
Very low to the ground, exactly. And that's a clear indicator that this storm is strengthening. And
Okay.
it looks like it has the potential to produce a tornado, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
Notice we've got the cloud deck here, relatively flat. We've got a bit of a lowered area here, but a little hard to see.
Oh, is that a funnel? That's a funnel.
Funnel cloud.
So at this point, still a cloud, not a tornado.
A tornado is a violently rotating column of air that's in contact with the ground.
Okay.
Ah,
so
okay.
not in
No
contact.
contact.
Necessarily cloud.
Oh, okay.
So you can have tornadoes that have a visible condensation cloud,
Right.
That funnel cloud that goes all the way to the ground. But you can also have tornadoes that have just a stub of a funnel. Maybe the funnel doesn't go all the way to the ground. Sometimes you can have tornadoes with
Wow.
no funnel at all, but still causing damage at the ground because it's the air that's rotating.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
I see.
That's wow.
Okay.
right? But if I was here watching this whole scene play out, yes, I see the funnel, but that's not what I'm interested in.
What
Really?
about what's going on the ocean?
Notice there's something going on here.
Yeah.
So this is over water. You see what's happening here?
Oh,
There's a
yeah, yeah,
spray
yeah.
ring. There's an obvious indicator that this funnel cloud is in contact.
It's
isn't it?
touching
It's
the
touching.
ocean.
So this would be a tornado.
This is a tornado.
Yeah,
Oh
okay,
my
yeah.
gosh.
This is a
that-
full-fledged tornado,
See,
but
I
you
would
can't
never
even tell.
look at that and say, there's a tornado. But when you said look carefully, I definitely saw that white on the sea. So,
I'm always looking at the ground underneath.
Right.
Always, because you look for debris, or in this case, water splashing up. The types of storms that produce tornadoes are typically not just cumulonimbus clouds,
Right.
but these thunderstorms, we call them supercell thunderstorms. And that is the
Right.
official meteorological term. It's a supercell. And it is a storm that has this persistent rotating updraft.
So the whole cumulonimbus cloud is
The
rotating.
whole storm is rotating, exactly.
okay.
And all of that energy is being concentrated on this one spot in a farmer's field in Kansas. And then here you can see debris where the tornado is hitting something.
right.
It might be tree branches, it might be dirt, who knows?
Right.
Hopefully it's not your house.
Right.
Of course, here we've got that perfect stereotypical looking tornado, but they don't all look like that. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's hard to tell if there's a tornado at all. Here it looks like we've got a funnel cloud,
Yeah.
but notice how it doesn't reach all the way to the ground.
So an amateur like me would say we've got all the ingredients for a tornado, but I wouldn't say that's a tornado. This is a tornado.
It absolutely is, and you can tell because if you look closely, there's some debris being kicked up here, and that tells me that the air, the column of air, makes it all the way to the ground. Sometimes the cloud, the funnel cloud, will,
Doesn't visit, right,
but
okay.
not always.
Right.
Sometimes they can be literally invisible. Here you can sort of see the sheath of
Yeah, the
of
outer
the
rim of the,
rotation there.
yeah.
the-
So
the-
again, you are looking at the land, what's happening on the ground,
precisely.
and that's going to indicate if it's a tornado or not.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a funnel. It only becomes a tornado by definition when it makes
that
contact
rotating
with the ground.
column of air. So, I mean, that makes me think you're chasing these things. You're pretty close. They're predictable to a degree, but things can change on a dime. How do you prepare for something like that when you're that close to it?
Right. So by looking at the storm and reading the sky, I can tell if the storm is strengthening. I can tell if it's weakening. I can tell what direction it happens to be moving in. I can tell whether it's likely to be producing a tornado within the next 10 minutes or so. All of that I can tell at a glance.
Wow.
But
That's cool.
they do
Surprise you.
sometimes pull a fast one on
Right.
you. Mother Nature is very capricious.
Yeah.
And there have been many instances where I've been chasing a tornado and it started moving in a direction that I didn't anticipate.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes you have to do
Yeah.
a quick U-turn and get out of there real quickly.
Wow. How would I know which way this tornado is going to go?
That's a great question. Here's a little safety tip for you.
Okay.
If you see a tornado and it's not moving to the left and it's not moving to the right, it just looks like it's getting bigger, it's coming straight for you.
Oh my God. Okay.
So if you're trying to flee a tornado, always move at right angles to the tornado. Never try to outrun a tornado.
Yeah.
Move at right angles to the tornado to get out of its path.
Okay.
You know what? There
Exactly.
is no way if a tornado is spinning towards me that I'm going to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go this way and. I mean,
Yeah.
it's over.
I understand. Sometimes you just have to get into the ditch,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. Like,
cover your head.
is it enough to get down in a ditch? I mean, I guess it's just the best odds you can get.
The safest place is in a basement
Right.
or an interior room of a sturdy structure. If you're in your car, it's a death trap because the tornado will
Really?
take your car and crumple it like a soda can and toss it into the next field. So always try to either be in a safe place to begin with before the tornado comes.
Okay.
If you can't, try and avoid the tornado, get away from it, drive at right angles. If you cannot escape it at all, it is coming for you and you just have no choice, get as low as you can, like in a ditch, cover your head and hope for the best.
So get out of the car.
Get out of the
get out
car,
of the
get
car.
away from the car so it doesn't roll over top
That's
of
what I
you
was
as
going to
well.
ask, is maybe park the car over the ditch and then hide under the car, but that
No,
sounds
don't
like
hide
it-
under the
that would
car. Get
probably
away
kill
from
you.
the car.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Precisely.
Glad I talked to you.
So here's an example, a really classic example of a nice sort of cone-shaped tornado. This is in South Dakota, and it crosses the road right in front of me. Watch for the oncoming driver,
All
who
right.
seems
Oh,
oblivious to
man.
what's going on. Like,
Wow.
just drove right in front of this thing.
What?
That's insane.
Do you
So-
think they just didn't notice?
I figure either the driver didn't notice, or they noticed at the last minute and they need a new pair of underwear.
Okay.
So this one requires a bit of setup.
Okay.
Because it's another example of an invisible tornado. This one was in Nebraska, and I'm driving this van, and there was a piece of farm equipment, an irrigation pivot, that was sitting parallel to the road.
Okay.
And you'll never see the tornado, but you'll see the effect the tornado has on the farm equipment. Watch closely. Driving along, the tornado pushes over.
Oh my God.
So I really don't like that term, invisible tornado. Like, I mean, a tornado is scary enough, but this is invisible?
Precisely.
There's nothing in the sky that's going to indicate that a tornado's there?
There are some subtle hints. To the trained eye, we knew it was there. But if you were someone who didn't know what to look for,
Just
you would
all
be
of a sudden-
completely unaware.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
machinery just starts flying through the air for no reason.
Pretty much. One thing that I find totally fascinating is that on the days that sometimes produce the strongest tornadoes and the biggest storms start off looking like this.
Yeah.
Blue sky with puffy cumulus clouds.
Peaceful.
Peaceful at first. And that really shows how the more we understand what's happening in the atmosphere, the better we can predict what's going to happen later today or even tomorrow, literally just by looking at the sky.
Yeah.
There's lots to learn. There's so many clues that the sky gives us
Yeah.
that if we're not tuned into it, we just completely overlook it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to look at the sky in the same way.
No.
Knowing all
definitely not.
this stuff about clouds.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating. I'm excited to try out some of the things that I've learned, hopefully not in a really extreme way, but thank you for being here and sharing all your thoughts and you know, probably get back to work. We need you out there in the field.
I don't know.
Researching, and thank you all for watching. Keep looking up.
We should just let it go. Oh, no?
We're gonna have to let it go. We gotta let it go. We gotta let it go, guys.